Hi, welcome to Animation Recap Center. El Dorado, the lost fictional city of gold, is a city where everything was made of gold. There are many legends about El Dorado in different countries. El Dorado was actually loosely based on the real myth of El Dorado, kind of the same concept as Atlantis. And apparently the reason El Dorado the myth was created was actually the pure obsession and fantasy of Europeans having the dire need for gold, and the desire to conquer lands for monetary value. But the South American version of the myth was quite different, as El Dorado to them was considered to be a man so rich and powerful. He covered himself in gold from head to toe each morning, and then washed it off in a sacred lake each evening. Today's movie is about the lost golden city of El Dorado. So, sit back, grab your snack and enjoy. The story begins in Spain in 1519 when Hernán Cortés, a ruthless captain, celebrates with the people as they embark on a new adventure to discover the new world. His horse, Altivo, was surprised by the shots fired that Cortés spilled his drink all over his armor. Cortés tells Altivo to keep his eyes forward and throws his cup at the wall, which hits a wanted poster of two criminals, Tulio the black-haired man with a goatee and Miguel the blonde-haired musician. At an alley, two partners Tulio and Miguel, who are thieves and scam artists, are scamming people for money with loaded dice, and one of the men, in a last-ditch effort to win all of the money back, bets a map of a city. Tulio firmly disagrees when Miguel looks closely. He is thrilled to find that it is a map of the legendary city of gold, El Dorado. Tulio still refuses to take up their offering, but is eventually convinced by Miguel after his relentless persuasion. But this time, before continuing the game, the sailor suggested using their dice instead to remain inconspicuous. Tulio agrees. Feeling the pressure, Tulio reluctantly throws the dice and it luckily lands on 7. They both celebrate their win and grab their winnings, but unfortunately, Tulio's loaded dice fall onto the ground. When their loaded dice fell out, it kept falling on 7. When the sailors realize they've been tricked, a soldier sneaks up from behind to apprehend them. Using his presence of mind, Tulio then says that Miguel has done this wrongful act to frame him. After that, Tulio and Miguel pretend to be fighting. They even grab swords and start attacking one another to make it seem real. Their fighting concludes with Miguel seemingly defeating Tulio, who slips on a roof tile. They later thanked the crowd for buying into their acting and ran away. Soldiers gave chase across town until they landed in water barrels. With the soldiers not too far behind, they hid in it when it was suddenly loaded onto a ship. They're trapped inside the barrel when a chest is placed on top. Later that night, they thought they were finally freed. But unfortunately, they find that the ship belongs to the same sailors they tricked back in town. This ship is led by none other than Cortés, a ruthless captain who is planning on conquering the new world. It turns out that the sailors work for Hernán Cortés. Cortés is furious at Tulio and Miguel for stowing away on their ship. He intends to sell them both as slaves once they reach Cuba. Until then, they're locked up in the ship's brig. When Tulio falls short of an escape plan, Miguel suggests bribing Altivo with an apple in exchange for the prison keys. Tulio thinks it's a stupid idea given that a horse would not understand them. They were shocked when the keys fell to the ground and they escaped from the holding cell. They plan to escape with one of the rowboats. When Altivo doesn't stop squirming, Miguel realizes it wants the apple it was promised. Tulio tosses the apple at Altivo, which bounces off the ship sails and into the water. Altivo mindlessly chased after it and jumped into the water. Worrying it might drown, Miguel jumps in and saves Altivo. Just when they thought it couldn't get worse, it started pouring. They even had to ride out the waves when a massive tsunami hit. They've drifted onto the boat for days with no food or water. While talking about regrets, they later realized they had landed on an island. They celebrate surviving a hellish ordeal when they suddenly find a skull on the ground. Fearing for their lives, Tulio suggests going out into the ocean with their small boat, but Miguel recognizes the place to be on their map. Tulio is furious at Miguel for saving a map instead of getting food. Miguel insists that El Dorado is on the island, and convinces Tulio on the trail to search for the legendary city of gold. After a long trek in the forest overcoming hurdles at every turn, Miguel and Tulio arrive at a massive rock. Tulio is furious after realizing the map all points to the rock and thinks it's a fake. They start arguing with each other when Tulio suddenly shouts in frustration. Out of nowhere they see a woman named Chel running from soldiers. Miguel and Tulio try to escape, but they quickly find themselves surrounded. Miguel and Tulio tried to explain that they were tourists, but the soldiers refused to listen and took them past the waterfall and into their village. They later realized that they were being taken to the elusive city of El Dorado. The duo is then greeted by two authoritative figures, Chel, the overly zealous high priest of El Dorado, and Chief Tanabok, the gentle and wise leader of the tribe. They mistake Miguel and Tulio for being gods and welcome them to El Dorado. Chel sees Chel and pulls her aside. He asks Miguel and Tulio about her punishment after being caught stealing from the temple. Chel pleads with her life, claiming her only wish is to serve the gods. Tulio pardons her and asks them to release her. When Chief Tanabok asks why he chose to visit them now, Zekelkan gets furious, telling him he's in no position to question the gods. For his transgressions, Zekelkan asks Miguel and Tulio to smite the chief. Realizing that the situation is getting out of hand, Tulio pulls Miguel aside, when a volcano in the background is fortuitously about to erupt. Their argument goes out of hand, and Tulio's outburst coincidentally also stops the volcano from bursting, which made everyone think Tulio was doing it. Because of that, everyone else was fooled into believing they were gods. Chief Tanabok and Zekelkan led Miguel and Tulio to the temple where they will stay. Upon reaching the top, Zekelkan proposes a reverence ceremony to commemorate their arrival, while Chief Tanabok suggests preparing a feast in their honor. When Miguel and Tulio couldn't decide, they asked to have them both. When they thought everyone was gone, Miguel and Tulio celebrate for tricking everyone into thinking they are gods. Little did they know that Chel was inside and she heard everything. Having heard their secret, Chel blackmailed them into letting her in on their scam. She claims that they need her help with the tribe's culture and traditions. When asked about her motives, she explains that she dreams of better things and going on an adventure. Worried they might get caught, Miguel and Tulio were forced to accept Chel's offer. In exchange for being their guide and helping them understand the tribe's traditions, Miguel and Tulio promise to take Chel with them when they decide to leave El Dorado. As night falls, the city of El Dorado prepares a glorious feast in their honor. Everyone enjoyed the night without inhibitions as they drank, ate, and danced the night away. When morning came, Miguel and Tulio were woken up by Zekelkan, who prepared the reverend ceremony as requested. Zekelkan then presents them with his sack as a tribute to the gods. Miguel and Tulio initially thought it was gold, but when Zekelkan revealed the contents, they were shocked to find a man inside it. They were horrified that Zekelkan intended to sacrifice the young man to the massive whirlpool below. Miguel quickly stopped Zekelkan, to which Tulio explains that the stars are not aligned for this tribute. Worry that the so-called gods have not received any tribute, Chief Tanabok offers them gold as the people's tributes. When Miguel and Tulio are pleased with the tribute, the servants proceed with the ceremony and toss the gold into the whirlpool below. Miguel and Tulio panic, confused about what they just did, when Chel explains that sending it to Xibalba means sending it to the spirit world past the massive whirlpool. Thanks to Chel's quick thinking, she convinced Chief Tanabok to keep the gold in the temple instead. On the other hand, the ruthless sailor Hernán Cortés reached the island with his crew, and they see the footprints of Tulio and Miguel. Miguel and Tulio start planning their escape and meet with Chief Tanabok to ask how long it would take to make a ship. When Chief Tanabok tells them it will take them weeks to make one, Tulio sarcastically remarks, wondering if Zekel can do it faster, being competitive with the high priest. Chief Tanabok claims he can do it in 3 days. Miguel and Tulio return to the temple worried about keeping up with the facade for 3 more days. Tulio suggests grabbing whatever gold they can fit in on the boat and leaving before they get caught. Miguel claims that he's just overthinking it. Chel suggests that Miguel check the city while she keeps Tulio distracted. When Tulio realizes Miguel was gone, Chel worked her feminine wiles on him to keep his mind off of things. Miguel went on to his own to explore the city when he couldn't find anybody. He found a guard and asks where everyone was. The guard explains that the streets have been cleared for the city to be cleansed for his orders. Miguel was confused as he didn't remember giving such orders. The guard revealed that the high priest gave them the orders. When he witnessed a guard apprehending a citizen caught outside their home, Miguel reprimands them and tells them to take the day off. Miguel tried to help the young man, but he ran away fearing punishment. When he saw the people afraid of him, he tried to confront them by playing the guitar. Eventually, the people warmed up to him. Miguel spent the day playing with the people, which bothered Zekel Can when he saw them mingling with the citizens. He claims it wasn't what he imagined their god to be and confides in Tulio. Zekel Can claims that the people will not respect him if they do not fear him, so he suggests sacrificing to keep people in check. When he was undecided, Tulio told him that he needed to consult with Miguel before deciding. Tulio finds Miguel playing with the citizens and reprimands him for not following their plan of laying low. While arguing, the high priest shows up out of nowhere and claimed that the gods shouldn't be playing ball like this. Miguel and Tulio later find themselves in the arena for hoops against 15 of Chief Tanabok's men. With only 1 point left for the opposing team to win, Chel suddenly has a brilliant idea. She hands them a pangolin, which conveniently looks like a ball. The pangolin tried its best to score only for Miguel and Tulio, to which they caught up to the opponent's score. The game is tied, and Miguel and Tulio mistakenly grab a typical ball instead of the pangolin. When they realized it was just an ordinary ball, Miguel and Tulio gave everything they had to get the winning point. As everyone celebrates Miguel and Tulio's victory, Zekel Can asks the so-called gods if they want to sacrifice the losing team as punishment. After hearing the high priest suggest offering the losing team, Miguel loses his composure and declares that from this day forward, no sacrifices will be needed. That said, he then banishes the high priest, claiming that his services will no longer be required. Although still shocked to hear Miguel's decision, Zekelcan notices that Miguel is bleeding and concludes he may not be who he claims to be. The next day, Miguel checks on the progress of the ship they requested. After a quick inspection, Miguel claims the boat is no good and makes many excuses. Chief Tenebok quickly saw through him and told him that he could always stay with them if he wanted. Miguel is torn as he doesn't want to part ways with Tulio, so he returns to the temple to consult him. He finds Tulio flirting with Chel, who unknowingly blurts out to forget about Miguel. Little did he know that Miguel hurt him and was hurt when he replaced him with Chel. After uncovering their secret, Zekelcan plans on summoning an ancient beast to reveal their secret to everyone else. Zekelcan summons a giant stone jaguar to attack Tulio and Miguel. They tried to run away, but the jaguar caught up to them. Tulio and Miguel lure the jaguar to the volcano away from everyone else. The stone jaguar was too heavy that it cracked the ground and drowned in molten lava. When they thought it was all over, the stone jaguar emerged from the lava, cornering them at the cliff. With no way out, Tulio and Miguel pretended to fight yet again. They tricked Zekelcan into thinking they were fighting, and they suddenly sucker punched him when he got close enough. Zekelcan withstood their attacks and the jaguar charged at them. The stone jaguar was too heavy that the cliff broke, and Zekelcan fell into the whirlpool below. With Zekelcan gone and the jaguar defeated, the people of El Dorado celebrate Tulio and Miguel's victory. Zekelcan survived the fall and washed up outside the city. When he found Cortés and his men, believing Cortés to be the real god in the prophecies, Zekelcan offers to lead him to El Dorado. The next day, Tulio prepares to leave El Dorado with Chel. Miguel decides to stay in the city. They're both still at odds with each other, unable to tell each other their feelings. Even in their final moments, Miguel would have struggled to say goodbye to his friend if not for Chief Tenebok, who convinced him to do so. They later see smoke on the horizon, realizing Cortés is fast approaching. Chief Tenebok prepares his people for war. Miguel advises fighting again against them, as they will surely lose to Cortés and his men. Tulio suggests using the bow to ram against the rock pillars under the waterfall to block the entrance to the city, despite knowing that he will lose all the gold they have on the boat. Their plan goes awry, and Tulio's ship is about to be crushed underneath the statue. Miguel and Altivo jumped on the ship to unfurl its sail. Knowing full well that he couldn't return to the city, they successfully crashed the ship into the pillar, causing a cave in the entrance to prevent Cortés and his men from finding the city. By the time Cortés and his men arrive, they found the entrance blocked. Cortés is furious at Zekelcan, who seems to have lied about the entrance. They take him away, intent on enslaving him, while searching for El Dorado in a different direction. Although they lost all the gold, Miguel and Tulio made up and embarked on a new adventure with Chel and Altivo, knowing that El Dorado was forever safe. The end. Thank you so much for enjoying.